talk more about the coronavirus and how much of a pandemic it may or may not be?
I think it's going to get bigger. It's been prophesized for forever, but we want to look at it from a spiritual perspective as well as a health perspective or a survival perspective. And the first thing that comes to my mind is an echo that I know is definitely a part of our purpose in life, and that is what happens to you happens to me. And that it's time to understand that we are a global family, a soul family on this planet now. That there won't be a disease over here that will not influence over there. That there's not starvation or war over there that does not influence over here. And so, again, you might find this difficult to swallow, but in having been with many people who died at the moment of their death, I know for sure that people choose the time of their birth and the time of their death, and that everyone on this planet, whether they're starving, whether they're sick, whether they're negative, they are reflecting something that belongs to us all. And so part of that reflection is what happens to you, happens to me. And the other part of that is really the response, which is how do we care enough for the world, for everyone who is in this world? And how do we recognize that when a person dies in mass, as we've seen in volcanoes, as we've seen in all kinds of catastrophes, there has to be something that, if you think of it spiritually, that would call them all together, that there is some kind of purpose in that. It's not an accident, but something in those souls who, of course, have known each other through many incarnations brings them together, whether that's on that airplane or in that place on the planet or whatever it is. And when I contemplate what could be, a part of that purpose, it would always be reflecting something back to us. And so I invite you all to move around with that today, tomorrow, and tomorrow, and tomorrow, and contemplate what is the gift that they have given you by allowing their lives to be interrupted. As we did this exercise in meditation, I actually saw for the first time children. And they haven't been talking about children. Mostly it's been about older people who already had problems with health, specifically problems with the lungs, because that's where that what we call again in Chinese medicine, interesting Chinese medicine, evil qi, an energy, this virus that attacks this. And I find that interesting because there's so much fear of this particular thing, and there's so much fear in our lives today. In the past, people were so busy surviving that they weren't running around being afraid. We have a lot more time to sit and watch television and stimulate ourselves with the energy of fear. My higher self says that actually all disease is sourced in fear. So that's a longer conversation. But what I would say about this is that it is certainly triggering in us, again, this conversation, are we safe? Can we survive? And we are at a pivotal time on this planet where our genetics, our human consciousness, our human species is dealing with this conversation, this theme. If we continue to hold for ourselves that the most important thing in life is to survive, and then we will continue with wars, we will continue to kill each other, and we will continue to destroy our planet, and the planet will be fine, but the two-leggeds may be a part of history. So there is a reflection that's going on there that asks us, how shall we respond? How shall we move from this? And so the first thing I would say is we have to move from our terrible fascination and fear of this and come to a place where we can actually, and this is something that's a tremendous leap for many people, which is to trust your body enough to say, I'm not doing that. Is that your purpose in life, is to catch a virus that's passed around the planet and succumb? One of the things that we find a lot in diseases and terminal diseases is that there is an echo that is predominant, and that echo is, I want out. So this, by the way, is not the time in your life to say, I want out, because you don't get enough money, because you're not doing the job you want, because your relationships are falling apart, because the world is falling apart. Don't do it. This is the time on this planet to gather up who you are and to sense your destiny, your universal destiny, your human destiny. Why are you here? Is it that to succumb to something? That's the theme on this planet. Are you the victim? We have loved being the victim for eons of time, since primordial humans, because if you're the victim, nobody can blame you. And we, certainly in the Judeo-Christic ethics, we have a lot of investment in blame and guilt. Has to go, has to go. So this isn't the time to be the victim. This is the time to say, how can I participate in the stopping of this, or the healing of all humanity. In the end, again, this might be a big leap for some people, but it starts and ends with human consciousness. Our consciousness can change everything. I have seen in my life so many impossible miracles through the body, through events, through the focus of consciousness. And so if you're going to focus your consciousness not only on your own health, but just diminishing this virus running around. And I do have to say that right now the viruses who have no brains, as a species, they're beating us. We place all of our attention on our brain. So when I'm talking about consciousness, I'm not talking about your brain. That we now know that we have, quote, a brain in here in the head, a brain in the heart, a brain in the intestines. Because what is a brain? It's a organization. It's a center that allows information to be utilized. So the viruses are beating us because if you throw stuff at them that maybe attenuates them, they just conquer that, and then they send out, and this is amazing to me, we could learn a lot from the viruses, they can send out across the planet an alteration, a mutation in their genetic makeup that will allow viruses from the other side of the planet to alter their genetics. So it's time for us to alter our own genetics, and to do that by bringing to our consciousness, to our bodies, that kind of energy that says, I can override the weakness of a virus. There are many weaknesses of any kind of disease that we're discovering, you know. Deprive cancer of sugar, and or even the brain, and it will die away, you know. So there are many ways that we can move around with potential and cause something to occur. When it comes to this virus, I think, well, first of all, let me just say, there are things, of course, that everybody's saying, wash your hands, do this, do that, do the other thing. The two things that come to my mind in terms of my own body, and I'm going to show that to you right now. First one is a mudra, which is a way of placing fingers, because we know that there are so many nerve endings in the tips of our fingers that translate in and out of the brain, and that it creates a channeling of energy. So what happens in disease, what happens in these kinds of things, is that there's a blockage of energy. All of the traditional forms of medicine and healing agree on this. And now I've come to think that they are more advanced, and that we in the Western world need to really recognize that. So this mudra, which again is just a placement, you've seen the pictures of the Buddha, you know, doing this, which means I am open, and I'm just, if you do this, you're circulating your divine energy within your being. So if you have your divine energy within your being, what is the purpose of a disease? So diseases have purpose, and that purpose is emotional and psychic and spiritual, as much more so than physical. So this particular mudra is a set of 3 of them. I'm only going to show you one, because again, this virus is attacking our lungs. What is the first thing we do? We take a breath. From my perspective, the soul does not enter the body until your first breath. The spirit is there. It's not a dead fish here. The spirit is there, but the soul energy, the true purpose, enters with the breath. So anything that is attacking this, where we hold our anxiety in the lungs and this area, again, it makes sense about the kinds of diseases and kinds of things that we allow to attack us. Because we have that uncertainty in every level of our lives right now. We have enough information about the body that we could certainly live to our 120-year. That's our possibility, 120 years. I think we can live beyond 120 years, but not the way we are. The average in the United States is 78. Well, I'm about to be 78. As you can see, I'm not going anywhere. I am just warming up. Let us all just warm up and get inside our bodies and be done with this stuff. So this mudra, and it's the reason I'm going to show it to you, actually saved my life. I once had triple pneumonia. I was swallowing in water in my lungs. I was going in and out of consciousness. I was alone. And at the last blah, 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 of fluids in my lungs, I remembered this mudra that had been taught to me. And so I would like to pass it to you. I suggest that you do it now. Not as a precaution. And I'm writing a book right now called Potential Body. And I'm not talking about the prevention. I'm talking about the consciousness that says, this is for you, body. It's not about I'm going to save you, or it's not, and it's about how you're going to avoid something. It's about you. I'm giving to you, body. This is the mudra. You put your forefinger and your thumb together, and then these fingers you draw in. This will affect the middle lobe of the lungs, where we get pneumonia, where we have most of these kinds of problems. And it really does. This literally saved my life. Now, if you were watching television, or even if you were driving, you could put one hand down here. Well, they probably wouldn't like it if I said that. But if you're at home, I do this when I sleep every night. When I go to bed, first I think about how life is good, and that I am happy, and I place my fingers in my groin, because it's a linking thing of your lymph and your energies in your body, and I go to sleep like that, and it really helps me to go to sleep. So if you have your fingers there, now just close your eyes for a minute. And actually, if I were going through this whole series, what you will find if you pay attention to your breath and your rib cage is that when you put your fingers in this mudra, it will cause the middle lobe of the lungs to be focused on, the energy to go and heal any lesions that are there. And it will cause your rib cage to move out like a frog. You know, like one of those things when you're blowing a fire. So just close your eyes and breathe in, and focus on your rib cage. And breathe in and out. Just breathe in and out. And watch your rib cage expand and go in a lateral position. And open your eyes. How many of you could imagine or feel that your rib cage started to do this? Raise your hands. Fantastic. So there is one of the things that, again, just reminds you that your body knows exactly what to do in any situation. Your eyes sit. And then the second one is that, and what I find interesting is, of course, whenever there's pneumonia or an attack on the lungs, when you go to the hospital, they will give oxygen. I don't know, maybe you could answer that for me, Karen. I don't know if by that time the oxygen is being breathed in this way, could actually, we know that negative chi, or viruses, bacteria, fungi, parasites, they're anaerobic. They can't survive in oxygen. But if you're doing it this way, I'm not sure you're going to get that into your cells fast enough. If it were me, I would be having hydrogen peroxide or ozone or something injected in my veins and get it into my cellular level. So that brings me to how could you, again, enhance your oxygen? Here we have a nice Kundalini professor teacher here. Breath, breath, breath. You know, you can do various practices of pranayama, of breathing, that will again strengthen this, that push that energy in. I myself use a pure hydrogen peroxide technique, 35% food grade. I bring it down to 3% and I spray it into my mouth. And I know for a fact how that works, because when I walk my dogs, it used to be that I live at the bottom of a hill. I had to stop halfway. That was 20 years ago. Now I could run up to the top of my hill without having a problem. And that's because I am making sure that I do all of these things that make my lungs strong. And so again, but hear what I'm saying. Don't wash your hands, put on the mask, don't travel, don't go outside because you are afraid. Because fear magnetizes energy. We know that at the moment it's 2% of people that are dying from this, who are mostly older people who have lung problems. So it's not going to be you. And if you have problems with your lungs, now's the moment to start saying, here lungs, let's strengthen you. This is for you, lungs. I think we could do what I call an exercise in consciousness right now to this virus, or for the ethers. You know, we know that it is air. It's passed through the air now. We're hoping it wasn't, but it is. It's airborne, and so we want to shift our energies in terms of the air. So one of the ways that we could imagine that we could diminish the power of this virus moving around in the air is to use light into the air, into the ethers, that shifts that energy, again, so that it is not something that's, that we invite. We can diminish it through the power of light. Everything that survived, everything that is formed with light. So let's just do that. There are many kinds of exercises in consciousness that we could do. This is the one my higher self gave me at this moment. That simply says, because I'm here, I will focus my attention on this virus, on this pandemic. Even if using the word is enough to get you. So that I'm offering something to this. That's the best thing you can do. The giver has the power. The giver has the power. We are not the victims. We are the ones who are saying, no, let this end. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath into your body. And now just imagine, again, for yourself, how does it look, this coronavirus? Does it have little wiggle squiggly things? How do you perceive it? Are they spots? What are they? Imagine them airborne. Imagine them flowing around. And then ask your higher self. That's your own intuitive knowing. What frequency of light will begin to diminish these viruses, that will begin to mutate them in such a way that they cannot reproduce, that they cannot continue. That this passage that we are all a part of, that we move through this now. Just take the first color that comes into your consciousness. What is the frequency of light that will diminish this virus, that will take it out of the air, that will free us from the fear of it and from its spread. Take that first color, draw it from the cosmos down through the top of your head and laser it out through your solar plexus, and imagine that color. Imagine the colors that are going to come into this room as we do this. Imagine your color coming down from the cosmos, the infinite healing life force source of the cosmos, through you and out into the air, into the ethers, around the planet, however you see it, flowing through the air, through the earth, through the animals, through the people, through the trees. This color circulating around, and imagine that as it circulates around, that it's as if all of the virus just fall dead, are demanifested. Quantum physics says that through the consciousness, through the beholder, what is manifest can be demanifested into the void. So just imagine that as you send out that frequency of light, that suddenly all of the viral energies are cast back into the unmanifest and dissolved away. And take a deep breath into your body. And open your eyes. And by the way, notice as you open your eyes how bright this room is right now. Can you feel it? It's almost like a white smoke in here, because we have put all those colors. That's what white is. It's a radiant frequency that holds all light, all different speeds and lengths of light. And we can really perceive it. So thank you. I would that we would, every time we hear the word, that we would send light into this place, into the people, into the areas, and dissolve it. And I must put a little flicker of cause and effect in here. This is not the first time that a dangerous virus has come out of China. China, that I honor, but China, because of their pattern of abusing animals. This virus comes from the billion-dollar trade and slaughter of wild animals. That's where they've decided it's come from. And so, is there cause and effect there? That must stop. It must stop. And you know, when I think about how we can change our patterns, especially when there's a lot of money that exists, for example, in oil, in animals, and the tufts of elephants, whatever it is, it will never be, dearest ones, it will never be, just like is true of your emotional body, that if you take something away, you cannot heal it. You have to take something away and give something in its return. And so we need on this planet to come up with brilliant ideas, all of you, brilliant ideas of how we exchange, just like you do with a 2-year-old, how you exchange one thing for another. There is another way that monies can be made rather than the slaughtering of wild animals and encaging. This is actually the third dangerous virus that's come out of that area because of abuse for animals. To say nothing of any kind of possible abuse of humans and human needs. So when we say, what is the purpose of our lives? Contemplate for yourself. What could be in exchange for that? What kind of education can bring that forward? I'm working on projects about the rainforests and making them all safe so that they can't be burned down, etc., etc. And in my mind, as I'm designing this very large concept, is exactly that at its center. How do you shift from one reality to another that could be more wonderful for the planet, more wonderful for humans, more of a higher octave? My higher self has always said to me that the healing of our planet and the evolution and why we're here will always come from the private sector. That means you and me. So when you go to sleep tonight, ask your higher self, give me some ideas, whatever you're passionate about in this world, whether it's health, or whether it's trees, or whether it's animals, or whether it's whatever it is, that even in your mind, whether you take it out and promote it, but if you can grasp a concept and you hold it, you have seeded a potential energy of healing onto this planet. That is part of your universal destiny and the purpose of coming into human form.